Welcome to How We Grow, an essential playbook to grow and scale your vacation rental business with advice and insights from the best in the biz, with your host, Linnell Gordon. So welcome to How We Grow, the Vacation Rental Show. I'm Linnell Gordon, your host. And guys, I have a really special guest. You guys know I don't normally have vendors on our program, but Eric is a real exception. Eric Goldreyer is experienced in our area, and I really think that he has some information that we can benefit from as property managers. So Eric, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for agreeing to come on.
Absolutely, Linnell. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
So let's talk a little bit about distribution. Distribution has changed significantly in the last 6 years, hugely changed. There have been a lot of property managers that I know, some of my good friends, who have built their business on distribution channels, some of the ones that you've been involved with from the beginning. And then actually I was having one of the property managers that I know, a really good friend, who was going to come visit me at the beach like last week. I was sick. And they want to talk about direct booking because my passion is direct booking because of, well, obvious reasons there. If you can get it. Talk to me a little bit about your passion.
I would say my passion is hospitality in general, across the board. If I think back to how I got into the travel industry, it was really because of my wife and I's love of travel and even of hosting. I mean, we were that couple in our mid-20s after we got married that liked to have the ice water with the glasses next to the bed and the shampoo and the conditioner and the stuff in the bathroom, and just making sure that you really thought in advance of all of the possible needs that even guests at our house we're going to have, and that you provide them with a great stay. Then transitioned into the bed and breakfast industry, into the vacation rental industry. And the timing, I guess, was just right that the internet was sort of becoming a thing, and a little bit of the right passion at the right time, and a little craziness on my part.
You've been incredibly successful. I mean, you're very successful. And here's my question to you. Now, I'm interested in this, and if you want to talk about something else too, that's fine. But if your passion is hospitality, Eric, where do you see us going in the next 2 years?
Great question. I mean, I don't see any fundamental across-the-board changes. I just feel that in general, and why we're doing what we're doing right now as people and as a business, is if you rewind the tape to, let's say, Orbitz, right?
Mm-hmm.
When it was created by a bunch of entities that wanted to create an OTA, drive demand, and to drive reservations. And what happened was, over time, the Travelocities, Expedias, Orbitz of the world were getting more and more powerful, and they were taking that leverage and sort of taking a bigger and bigger piece of the distribution cost. And you saw Expedia with their net rate product at 30%. We did it at bnbfinder.com. We sold rooms for bed and breakfasts on a net rate basis, and we made 30% of the transaction. It's just too high. You fast forward to the vacation rental industry, and you get a group of guys that come up with an idea to have a mattress, an air mattress on their floor to cover some costs, which was brilliant. And at the time, consolidated demand and gave travelers a place to go. As that demand consolidation has improved, I guess, among the top distribution platforms for vacation rentals, what became a less expensive way to travel for a traveler, i.e. staying in someone's room in their home or staying in a vacation rental, so they had a kitchen and free parking and ability to do laundry and a place to meet, is become increasingly more and more expensive. And I think that's because the fees have gotten out of hand. And so we're trying to sort of bring back that less expensive distribution platform that not only saves the vacation rental managers money, but it saves the travelers money and allows them to, with that savings, either stay in a nicer place, stay an extra night, chef, book an excursion, or even, who knows, pay for their airfare, or pay for their electricity bill, their house, who knows?
So in the next 2 years, you think that things are going to be just similar to where we are right this minute, right?
No, I think you'll see, and I think we are seeing more and more property managers doing what they can to drive direct reservations.
Okay.
They can disintermediate the big OTAs. No one, I would think, would be foolish enough to get off of Airbnb or Vrbo. They're good drivers. But as a vacation rental owner myself, as the owner of a 20-room boutique inn just outside of Austin, we use those channels, but we also try to move share from those channels to direct. Whether it's our repeat business, our word of mouth business, making sure that we're providing the best rate. But, I think everybody wins on the supply side and the demand side when the traveler can book direct, whether
Absolutely.
It's the savings or we feel honestly a higher level of hospitality. I don't care how good the Airbnb site is, the Vrbo site is, bnbfinder site is. A website can't provide the level of hospitality as a professional property manager can. They just can't. Hard stop.
I agree.
So we think travelers benefit by being able to more easily communicate with property managers that are in the market, that know not only the town inside out, but know the property inside out. And so by removing that barrier and making it really easy for potential guests to communicate, not through the platform where we're stripping out phone numbers and email addresses, but
exactly.
If you want to talk to this PM, here's their email, here's their phone, here's their text, rock and roll. We think that allows the traveler's needs to be met better, and it allows the property manager's needs to be met better, because while we don't have this data at a statistically relevant level, anecdotally, what we've heard in speaking with property managers is that when they can communicate directly with a potential guest before the reservation's made, their conversion goes up by almost double in some cases, because they can better understand what their needs are. And instead of losing that potential guest because that one listing of that one property the PM had on Airbnb
wasn't available,
and so they went to a different PM, they're talking with the guest and they're like, oh, you're coming in town for that? You have this one property that's coming online in 2 weeks and it'll be perfect for you. Let me see if we can get you set up there. So just all of those different special needs. It's not only the savings, we feel a higher level of hospitality when the traveler can communicate directly with the host.
So tell me, what's your biggest piece of advice you would give to vacation rental managers today?
I would say, we, in working with PMs, we've seen PMs that don't even have their own website. They strictly rely on third-party platforms or OTAs for distribution.
Yeah, I'm going to say something to you. I would have laughed at that like 3 years ago before I started this program last year, actually. But since then, you're so right. I was so surprised. So
it's amazing. And hey, if it's a hobby to you and you're managing your vacation rental and you picked up 2 or 3 of your friends' vacation rentals because you all bought a place in Breckenridge or wherever, or Kansas, great. I think that's fine, because it's not a business necessarily. You're trying to make some additional revenue. If you're approaching it as a professional, I think you need that website, and you need to have a way for people to book direct without going through the platform, because at some point, it's a performance-based marketing tool when you market on Airbnb and Vrbo, meaning you're only paying if you get the reservation.
Right.
But you're pricing yourself 15, 20% higher by making a traveler pay that fee. And therefore you're losing reservations if you can't accept easily direct bookings.
I agree.
I would say
exactly right.
Have a website, answer your phones, and make sure that you're also taking advantage of other tools that drive those travelers to your own website once you have it.
Can we talk just a minute about the second thing you said? Because this is a pet peeve of mine. And guys out there in vacation rental land, can I just tell you that answering phones, that's a huge deal. I'll bet most of the people listening have a platform set up so that if someone calls and they can't answer, that there's a way that it directs to somebody else who answers or it leaves a message. It is such a difficult thing as a guest to call and not get someone on the phone. Not talking about 11 o'clock at night, not even talking about after business hours, but during business hours. Answering the phone is a huge way to increase your market share. So if you're not doing that, that second thing that Eric just said, answer the phones, find a way to answer the phones. There are services out there that do it. There's a lot of different methods to do that, and it makes a difference. We just came back from a vacation in Florida. My whole family, we decided this year that we would do a family vacation with my whole family, and we had like 30 people or so. And we rented this big house in Reunion, Florida, and it was such a disaster. And you couldn't get anybody on the phone. You couldn't get people on the phone, and I will never do that again. That was the first and last time that I will rent a mansion with my family. We all went in together and paid for it.
Is that a FURBO or a professionally managed property?
That was a professionally managed property, but when I went to book it, he had his own website. It was called a Timeout Villas or something like that. That was I'm telling you the name of it because, guys, be careful if you do this. I'm just warning you. We had 64 pictures when we got there. One of the shower heads, literally, there was water pouring out of the wall when you turn the shower on. The shower head was broken off.
It's a waterfall shower. That's a fit. That's not a fit. It reminds me of my days at bnbfinder.com. We sort of had this 3 strikes you're out rule, in that if an innkeeper, who are professional hosts, if an innkeeper consistently got really negative feedback, and after talking with the innkeeper, we were like, no, we don't agree with you, then we would remove them from the site based on the fact that we felt that they're representing the industry. And I think that the same thing hopefully happens with property management companies. The vast majority of them are well-run, professionally run, great organizations.
Absolutely.
But what we can't do is we can't have whatever these timeout folks are that maybe need to be in a timeout.
They definitely do.
We can't have them just sort of giving the industry a bad name.
There were like 64 pictures that we presented, and we asked someone to come fix it. We ended up having half a vacation just cleaning ourselves, and it was just terrible. I mean, it was beautiful online.
I'm assuming you rated the property.
I haven't yet. I was very sick. I actually got sick during the middle of that vacation, and we had to go to the hospital. My husband was actually in the hospital, hospitalized for influenza A. So, that was... I had travel insurance. Can I just say Rental Guardian? I love Rental Guardian travel insurance because they will pay for our half the vacation that we didn't get to take.
That's great. You know what? Yeah. I want to pause just for a second and point out the irony of the fact that here we are in 2024 saying answer the phone.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, you'd think we'd be talking straight internet and AI and real-time instant confirmation reservations versus reservation requests, distribution, etc. But it's some of the simple stuff. It's not real professional to not get back to people, even if they have to leave a message. Get back to them. I don't know what the data is today, but when people call you trying to make a reservation, they're wanting to make a reservation. And if you're not there to answer the phone or you don't answer the phone, obviously your conversion is going to go down by some amount. You're probably better off answering the phone. Let's just say that.
Yeah, or using a service to do that. And who would think that we would talk about it? You're right. AI is a really great topic. There's a lot of changes. When I asked you about 2 years and the next 2 years, I think we're going to see a lot of changes. I think there are going to be a lot of really cool things available to us that are in beta right now. We say they're in beta, they're actually out. People are using them, but it's still beta. You know it is when you build a business.
It's beta, but it's minimum viable product, MVP.
And we figure out what people need, what they want, what's going to work. And in 2 years, that will be available.
AI will help on the customer care side. It'll help the creating content for web page sites, for blogs, for listing descriptions, for your own homepage, your own website, actually.
I think there'll be a lot of really cool things there. So let's go back to that. I usually do best advice for property managers.
I think it is be a professional if you're going to be in the space, but leverage direct bookings to decrease your distribution costs and drive more higher conversion and lower cost reservations.
Yeah, I agree. It's a really, we've spoken about that several times over the last year about direct bookings, and there's lots of ways to do it. And I can tell you that you mentioned something about Airbnb and Vrbo, and you have to have that. Well, you actually don't. There are markets where they're not used. And I happen to be in one of those markets right this minute, and they're not used, and that's fine. But it's also 30 miles from here, there's a market that does nothing but use that. That's the way. So I think your market is really important in determining how much of direct booking you can use. And if you're not going to use as much direct booking, then use other platforms that are cheaper, that are able to distribute in ways that save you money.
I'd love to hear a little more about that, Linnell. When you say there's markets where they're not used, you're saying that Airbnb and Vrbo aren't used to make reservations in that market?
Yes.
And why is that?
Well, the property manager's not using them. I'm sure some of the property managers in this market uses them, but they're not necessary. The reason they're not necessary is because it's been a direct booking market for 40 years, right? And they have a base that they've set, that people come back. It's one of those areas that's really home to, vacation rental guests in this area, they return. So they have a lot of return reservations. There are areas like that, and this just happens to be one. That's where I bought my vacation rental here in this area. I only have, as far as vacation rentals, I have rentals, but vacation rentals, I only have one right now. And,
while I agree with that, I would take a little bit of a different perspective, which is...
Tell me.
Airbnb and Vrbo maybe aren't driving reservations there because the supply's not on Airbnb and Vrbo, but if people time out, they cycle out, and they're going to do their family getaway to this same place for 5 or 10 years. Mm-hmm. And PM's going to need to backfill that because there's no cost unless you get a reservation on Airbnb and Vrbo. Why wouldn't you want to be on it as a PM?
Because you didn't want the distribution to be in. You didn't want. There's a bunch of reasons that I could say, but today they don't matter anymore. Yeah. Ask me that 10 years ago, I would say because we don't want them to have the market on SEO for it. But when Google Local came out, that killed that. So that's now not a problem. So why do they not use them? Why do they not put it in there? Because they don't need them. It doesn't help them in off-season. Off-season is when they need them. They rent their core.
Right.
So then you would need it.
Say at our inn, right? Sage Hill Inn and Spa. We're on those platforms. We get very little business from them because most of our business is direct.
There you go.
We've got a really good website. We've got a 5.0 TripAdvisor rating, and we get a lot of repeat, a lot of word of mouth business. But aside from being worried about the customer that you get, but then you're going to have that same problem if you take direct bookings on your website. I just feel the risk is not high, other than building up someone where travelers going to go there versus coming to you direct, which is the point that you made.
And the data that doesn't come through like you were talking about. That. Let's talk about something that you just mentioned, though, that I think has been important for many years. We don't talk about very much reviews. Reviews are incredibly important. And TripAdvisor is very important in our industry. I don't care if you like it or not. It's incredibly important. So the reviews that you put on your website, people, they know those are washed. Don't care how you put it. So Google Local and TripAdvisor, but Google Local more than TripAdvisor even. What if you guys, we got to put reviews out there because people are coming and they choose your home in your program based on those reviews. How many times have you gone on vacation last year, Eric?
How many times did I go on vacation? Mm-hmm. Not enough. No. 4 or 5.
Every time. Did you go to a house?
A weekend, 4 or 5.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. So did you look at reviews before you went into this? See, yeah.
Unless if I knew nothing about the location, right?
So why don't we focus? Why are we not continually focused on our reviews? Why is that not in our marketing program? Like, when we're doing marketing, why is that not number one?
I think it's one of the top ones if you look at the data of what travelers want to see, and travelers just know to sort of be aware of it. it's a data point, but it's not the almighty. You can't take it for what it says. You have to sort of know that there's a caveat.
Yeah. And we do. I think travelers know that there's a caveat, but I can guarantee you that after I put my reviews out for that home that I stayed in, people will think twice. They'll think twice, and they need to. That was a really important vacation that got ruined. So I think
traveler reading that review, I'm going to say, okay, well, did she not like the host? I want to look at, 20 other reviews. And if 19 reviews were great and yours was a 1 and the others are all 5s, I'm like, that probably was her. Right. So
now I'm going to put 64 pictures out with it. I have 64 pictures. And some of them are so disgusting. No, they won't come back.
I'm just trying to say the reviews are helpful.
I agree.
But they're not.
Right. Is there you want to tell people?
Is there anything I want to tell people? Just the point that we would like to get across is you're paying, as a traveler, you're paying a lot more when you book on one of those platforms. Right now, we've all read it. Travelers will look at a listing that they found on one of the big OTAs that they like, and they'll right click on the image so they can do an image search and try to find the property management company. And you get these sleuths to start digging around trying to book direct. So there's savvy travelers that are trying to book directly with PMs. Make that as easy as you can, because you're costing your travelers money to spend with the OTA that they could have spent with you.
So how many years have you been a vendor in our industry? Let's go back to the very beginning. How many years?
Well, as far as the travel industry, it's been since 95. That was the bed and breakfast industry with bnbfinder.com.
Mm-hmm.
And we had the largest property management software in the industry as well. Sold that in 2010. A couple of years later, started what became the second largest property management company in North America, Turnkey Vacation Rentals. We sold that to Vacasa.
You work with one of my favorite people, just so you know. You did that with some of the
there's some
smartest people in the industry, Eric, honestly.
We had a great team for sure. So I would say in the vacation rental space, it's been 11, 12 years. Yeah.
You have a lot of experience, and you have a lot of experience knowing what travelers want. And I think that's important. That's one of the reasons I thought you'd have such good info to share with property managers, because literally that's been your life for this length of time. And you've not just thought about it and walked away. You've been very, very successful in creating products that were important. And yes, you've sold them, but that's every businessman's dream. And now tell me what you're doing.
Yeah, so now, I guess we didn't mention, I mentioned earlier, I didn't mention just now, but in 2011 or so, my business partner and I purchased an inn that was 12 rooms at the time, and we've taken it to 20. And I started doing vacation rentals with my two homes, right? Mm-hmm. And so I started sort of being more aware of the scuttlebutt and on that side of things, because with Turnkey, I wasn't an operating person. I was one of the co-founders, the idea.
Can I just shout out to John Banczak, who is one of my favorite people on this planet. He is brilliant. He is smart. No matter what he does, it turns to gold, because I just think he understands not just the industry, but he understands how to manage people, and he understands how to create platforms. I think he's really, really, and I just like him. He's a nice person.
I'm always down to give JB props. He's
Fabu. He is just a person, Fabu.
One of my best friends. We met at WorldRes back in the late 90s, which was, if anybody remembers, WorldRes was sort of taking it was Hotel Reservation Network, HRN at the time, which was a 1-800 number. It was a call center. And then they moved online to the internet when the internet came out and rebranded to hotels.com. But they were the originator of the net rate sort of model. And WorldRes was trying to do that same model at a 15% commission instead of a 30% and be less expensive. So the supply loved them, but they didn't quite get there. That's where I met John. And then we worked together at bnbfinder.com. We did Turnkey together, and now he's over at Vacasa.
Yeah, I remember when you guys started Turnkey, and I was like, oh, man. That's and such hard workers. You guys work so hard. You really put your money with your mouth is in things.
It's fun to see an opportunity and to address it. I mean, and back to what you were saying, how do we end up where we are today with bnbfinder and having building a platform that doesn't have the booking fees and the service?
Mm-hmm.
Is we just saw, anybody that sees the news, travelers are sick of the fees, whether it's Airbnb or it's Ticketmaster or it's, Uber food delivery, right? It's like you're getting these fees that are becoming a bigger and bigger part of the transaction. And,
Mm-hmm.
and when I say fees, I'm talking, obviously, your cleaning fees or your cancellation fees. Those things need to exist. But
sure.
But the booking fee and the service fees are what we're like, okay, with property management companies that already have the ability to take the reservation and to process it and to handle that, why do we need an intermediary in the way to do all that same stuff and to add to that cost? Mm-hmm. So we need bnbfinder to build a place to aggregate that inventory on the supply side, that we could go out and offer it to the travelers without the fee, start bringing the travelers in and then roll that up. And that's sort of where we are. We started at end of April, beginning of May this past year. Property management companies know we exist. We're at 1,000 property management companies now with 60.
Are you integrated in all the PMSs?
We've got
main ones?
Certain top 10 to 12, and we've got a list of 5 that are in the engineering queue.
There's a lot of cool stuff coming out. One of the things that's coming down that I think we need to talk about in one of our podcasts, and I have to figure out who I should address this to. I think it's really interesting. But did you know that California has passed laws that talk about you can't charge for the credit card fees? Like, in one of the things we do is we actually do charge, and we don't charge it directly. There are ways to get around it. We either build it in or that kind of thing. That too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those kind of things, that's because of legislation, and it's going to change.
Built by property managers for property managers. Streamline is a powerful software that gives managers enterprise-level capabilities to drive more revenue and improve operational efficiency. Migrating to Streamline allows property managers to gain functionality while reducing the need for multiple vendors, improving flow by logging into a single system and reducing redundant technology costs. With Streamline, property managers achieve revenue lifts by leveraging our fully fledged communication center, reservations quoting system, revenue management tools, homeowner acquisition CRM, and powerful direct OTA connections. Streamline also has industry-leading trust accounting and report capabilities to give you clarity in an overall company performance. Learn more about Streamline Vacation Rental Software at streamlinevrs.com.
And it's probably going to change federally, which is something, maybe I'll get Scott Leggett on to talk about that. But were you aware of that?
Some of that. There's been a lot of different discussions related to the fees and whether you can have them or whether if you have them, you have to disclose them. Look at Airbnb, and the way that they're addressing fees is not to eliminate them, obviously. That's how they make money. They're just saying, well, we're going to show them clearly. We're not going to try to bait and switch you, which is
the same thing we did like 15 years ago on the Outer Banks to start with. Let's individually bring it out. We created really cool online apps that showed them their add-ons. So it's nothing new, but it works.
Are we going to go to a restaurant and they're going to add it? The cost of paying by credit card on the, so I don't know. It's really going to be interesting. And the bottom line is people are going to have to make that money wherever. It is a cost of business. So they're either going to have, I don't necessarily, it's like the whole tipping conversation. And people are frustrated, and I am too. You go to get something super simple, you buy a bag of chips at the gas station and they fling the thing around and it's like a tip, and it's like $1 the minimum and you're like, my chip. No. But if the business
don't give in to peer pressure. I'm just saying those things drive me crazy.
Owner is using that tipping money to ultimately pay that salary. They're not paying that salary as much. If they've got to eat it, it's all going to come from somewhere. So it's like, okay, best thing is you disclose it, but you got to build it. You got to build it.
I agree.
I've
Eric,
started charges that are crazy from handyman type people that are coming and to the house, and like the trip fees and the card processing fees, et cetera, et cetera. Everybody's just trying to find their piece, I guess. And we're just at bnbfinder, we're hoping that we can give that piece back to property managers and travelers. And
I hope you can make it less expensive. And if so, do the same thing for less money. That's what we all want to do. As vendors, that's what we want to do. I want to say thank you so much. Thank you so much for doing this with me.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate what you're trying to do in the industry. I appreciate all the time that you've put into it, and that we don't give recognition to our that have been there long, and they're literally trying to help people. And that's how they're making money doing it, of course, but that's what property managers do too. We help people, and we want to make money while we do it. And it's the same thing for the vendors in the industry.
Fair amount of money.
Yeah.
We're $80 billion valuation, and let's add a 2% cost to the travel for intra country currency exchanges. Like, why? How much do you need to make?
And we're if you're a good product, you can sell your product for a reasonable price to enough people. Exactly.
That's
but
right.
30%, let me have 30% of your reservation. It just doesn't cut it anymore in the industry. So
yes, the whole thing is property managers can list all of their properties with us absolutely free. There's no commitment. There's no contract. Get on the platform. It's going to drive reservations to your website. And if they ever want to get additional exposure for a low monthly cost, they can increase in the display bias of the search results and get higher, basically, but they don't have to do that. And there's no service fee, no booking fee, et cetera. So try to make it really easy. And so I think that's why we've gotten 1,000 PMs in 7-8 months.
Here's what I say to anybody who wants to go to a new vendor. Find have them give you 5 recommendations so that other property managers just like you, and talk to them, literally talk to them. That's the way that you find out whether or not they're making money. The other thing is, the other thing that gets me about vendors in the industry is you really should put your money where your mouth is. And not only should you give out recommendations of people who are using your product, but hopefully somebody who measures, am I actually making money at it, or do I just like it? It's convenient and it's expensive, or am I making money by using it? And I think that as vendors, I think providing that to people right up front, it separates us from other people and other vendors. That's
great. Let me just comment quickly. You asked what they do. Using Google Analytics to see where your traffic's coming from, where your reservations are coming, and where your revenue's coming from. Because we're running it back at bedandbreakfast.com. We used to provide all of that within our dashboard, but some innkeepers were like, well, can we trust that? And of course they could, because we used what was Web Trends, which Google acquired to make analytics. But we said, hey, look, use your own. We'll provide it for you, but use your own. And that's the same thing we're going to do here, is provide a dashboard for PMs to see how many people viewed their listing, clicked on their listing, ultimately made a reservation. But property managers need to be looking at the data.
I think that we are. I think property managers, I mean, even the ones that are small have somebody that does revenue management. I think that if you're not doing revenue management today, I mean, you've been doing it in some way, shape, or form anyway. Even my family hired a big manager, and that's what they do. They actually work with Streamline has I love Streamline software, I'm just saying, but they have they have something called RevMax that they built in, they pulled out. Now everybody can use it no matter what PMS you use. And they have a revenue manager that works with that revenue team. And that's where you have money where your mouth is. You have people, you can say, okay, how much more money have I made this year based on last year? Let's go last year, look at analytics. How much am I making this year? More or less than I was last year. And I have found it significantly interesting, as you talk about analytics, to see where we've gone as property managers. even those that are not as sophisticated, say as the corporates that have come in like a Vacasa, that have a lot of, they have a lot of their own, well, you think about it, you guys brought a lot of your turnkey amazing stuff into there, let's just say that. But they have analytics, and even those small companies like my family, we're using data, and we're using it in a very good way to not only predict what's going to happen in the season, predict what's going to happen in the off season. They've already started campaigns for off season, and it is January 29th. So, having property managers that are proactive and using those analytics. So I'm glad you have analytics. That's great, because I don't think you can have too much data.
Agreed. Yeah.
Eric, thank you for coming to talk to me. Been a pleasure. It really has been a pleasure. My pleasure. Is there anything else you want to say?
No, thanks so much for the time. Look forward to visiting with more and more property managers and talking with them on the phone or seeing them at conferences.
It's a lot of fun. We should have a lot of fun with what we do. I look forward to talking to you soon. We'll talk later.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
This episode of How We Grow is brought to you by Streamline. To find out more about how Streamline can help grow your vacation rental business, visit streamlinevrs.com. Make sure to search for How We Grow in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found, and hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. On behalf of the team here at Inhabit, thanks for listening.